Can any of you imagine that big cities like New York, London, and Tokyo could turn into graveyards overnight? Because it has actually happened in human history. Yes, Pripyat is such a city. Pripyat is one such city which turned it from a growing city into a ghost city within just 3 hours. It's about that time when Pripyat was once a model city of the Soviet government and was established in 4th February 1970 for the workers of nuclear power plant and their families. Average age of the city's inhabitants was at the time of the accident only 25 years old. Pripyat had all the luxuries of a modern city. That city had everything until the day of the accident, which was on 26th April 1986. Well, on 26th April 1986, during a test to see how much power was needed to keep the number 4 reactor operating in the event of a blackout, the number 4 reactor of Chernobyl nuclear station exploded, causing fire, which led in the following days to huge damage of the building, releasing extremely dangerous amounts of radioactive chemicals into the air, which over time contaminated millions of square miles in dozens of European nations. The IAEA, known as International Atomic Energy Agency, estimates that approximately 30 people were killed by explosion and related radiation exposure, with several thousand additional deaths due to higher cancer incidence possible over the long term. The town closest to the number 4 reactor was Pripyat, a city of 50,000 founded in 1970 to the houseworkers of Chernobyl. The city had 15 primary schools, a large hospital complex, 25 stores, 10 gyms, along with parks, cinemas, factories, a pool, an amusement park, and other marks of a thriving community. Because of the people who lived there, it was one of the most beautiful and luxurious city in the Soviet Union at that time. On one day, the accident occurred, just 3 kilometers from the explosion. State authorities had not warned the 50,000 residents about the danger of radioactive pollution, nor had they provided them with iodine tablets that would help to fight against the effects of radiation. The power plant accident caused radiation levels to exceed 1,000 times the natural level, and that's when they realized that things were getting out of their control. He then allowed everyone to leave the area as quickly as possible. On the afternoon of 27th April 1986, residents were allowed to take only essential goods with them by train, boat, and most buses, as officials told them they would be expected to return in 3 days. This information was issued to avoid panic and to prevent people from carrying too much luggage with them. Later, the authorities decided that the city must remain empty forever. Apart from this, an announcement was also made which had to be followed by all the people present there who were residents of Pripyat. The city council informed everyone that the radioactive situation in the surrounding area was worsening due to the accident at the Chernobyl power station in the city of Pripyat. Communist Party, its official, and the armed forces are taking necessary steps to combat this. Nevertheless, with the view to keep people as safe and healthy as possible, the children being top priority, they need to temporarily evacuate the citizens in the nearest towns of Kyiv region. For these reasons, starting on 27th April at 2 p.m., each apartment block will be able to have a bus at its disposal, supervised by the police and the city officials. It is highly advisable to take your documents, some vital personal belongings, and a certain amount of food just in case with you. The senior executives of public and industrial facilities of the city has decided on the list of employees needed to stay in Pripyat to maintain these facilities in a good working order. All the houses will be guarded by the police during the evacuation period. Along with this, also keep in mind that while leaving your residences temporarily, please make sure you have turned off the lights, electrical equipments, and water, and shut the windows. Please keep calm and orderly in the process of this short-term evacuation. During the evacuation, women and children were collected first, But there was a serious lack of buses in this part of Soviet Union. The buses thus had to come from other parts of the country to evacuate all the 50,000 inhabitants of Pripyat. The queue for the buses was 20 kilometers long, which means that when the first bus was leaving Pripyat, the last bus couldn't even see the power plant chimneys from the distance away. Still, somehow the entire city was evacuated as quickly as possible, and it took them 3 hours to complete all this. After Pripyat was evacuated, the evacuation of the other villages within a distance of 30 kilometers from the reactor was conducted until the beginning of May. Decontamination work was carried out in 1840 statements. However, the Chernobyl exclusion zone was not formed until 1994, when the inhabitants of the last villages in the western part of it were moved to new apartments in Kiev and Zhytomyr regions. Apart from this, let us also tell you that during the evacuation, the people of Pripyat were not allowed to take their pets or cattle with them, due to the fact that these animals could have had their fur contaminated with radioactive dust. Also, to avoid further contamination for the environment, special forces had to liquidate every animal in the Chernobyl zone. On 5th May, the evacuation of people living in the explosion zone, which in 30-kilometer radius around Chernobyl, was finished. Today, people are prohibited to enter the zone, with the exception of ex-residents visiting cemeteries or those with a permit, such as tourists and workers. Around 100 people, mostly pensioners, still live in this exclusion zone, and all are living here at their own risk. You can visit them during your 2-day Chernobyl tour and see how they are living and ask them why they returned. Apart from these inhabitants, there are also around 3,000 workers whom are in a special regime and take care of the Chernobyl zone itself. There are around 2,500 workers still working at the Chernobyl power plant, even though it has been completely shut down since year 2000. Besides liquidating the nuclear fuel, these workers also ensure radiation safety and electricity flow from Belarus to Ukraine and vice versa. A couple of thousand workers also continued with the construction of the new sarcophagus, which was completed in 2018. Now let us come to the question whose answer probably every person who knows about this accident would like to know, and that is whether this city is really haunted. So let me tell you, the Pripyat is now a city of ghosts, and despite no one living there, has its own grace and atmosphere. Pripyat did not meet its end like some nearby villages, which were buried underground by bulldozers. Boards on the road with their names and a village map commemorate the abandoned villages. Some say this ghost town harbors actual ghosts, both tourists and official workers within the zone, as well as those who illegally sneak into the area, have experienced strange things when visiting Pripyat and the area surrounding the Chernobyl nuclear power plant. Strange shadowy figures are said to lurk among the urban decay. Screams, shouts and strange noises are sometimes heard from within the abandoned buildings or even coming from within sealed off areas of the Chernobyl plant itself. Moving shadows, mysterious lights or figures of people appearing and disappearing from the many vacant windows of apartment blocks have been photographed. Because of these, police and army guard Pripyat as well as the whole 30-kilometer restricted zone. Despite non-stop duty, it did not prevent robbery and plunder. Mostly in 1991, after the Soviet Union dissolution, when the Chernobyl zone was less secure, the whole city of Pripyat has been plundered, and there isn't a single flat that has not been visited by thieves, taking away all precious items to be found. The residents had a chance in 1987 to go back to get some of their belongings, again just a few bags, but only a small percentage did. A military factory named Jupiter had been operating in the city until 1997. The famous swimming pool was operating until 1998. However, today it is even more plundered and destroyed than the majority of flats of school in the city. There are still 3 parts of the city that are still in operation: the laundry of Chernobyl nuclear power plant, truck garage and a deep ground well with pumping station to supply of water of power plant. Still, most of the people do not like to go here now. Whether it is because of ghosts or because of radiation, it is difficult to say, but it is a certain that people like to stay as far away from this place as possible. So would you like to visit this historic and haunted place? Do let us know by leaving a comment. If you liked the video, then hit the like button and also share it with your friends. And for more such videos, subscribe our channel and also turn on the bell icon. Till then, bye bye.